Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing or availability questions concerning this watch. Today, something discontinued, extremely rare, and extremely handsome. From FP Journe, this is the Centigraphe Souverain in platinum with rose gold dial and full factory matching platinum bracelet. We believe somewhere around 10 left the factory in this exact specification, and this is a decorated model. The original launching in 2007, and in 2008, the GPHG Aiguille for its unusual combination of a super high frequency secondary escapement on top of a base movement that is 3 Hertz. More on that in a moment, as well as the 2 patents involved. Let's talk about dimensions, because it does wear larger than you might think. Every Centigraphe has been at least 40 millimeters. There was never a 38 or a 36, and that is the diameter right here. In profile, 10.6 millimeters thick, and then from lug to lug, 48 millimeters. But if we add the end links to the bracelet, the total horizontal distance across the wrist is a fairly beefy 54.1 millimeters with a 20 millimeter spacing in between the lugs. Now, you may ask, all of that platinum and gold, how much does it weigh? Well, its mass is 250 grams on the nose. I put it on my scale, confirmed that. Keep in mind, we've got a platinum bracelet, a platinum case, a rose gold dial, a rose gold movement, and then the clasp internals, as is traditional with FP Journe, are made of white gold. So this is a very, very heavy and massive watch. Taking a look at the bracelet, you can see it's a 5-link design. It's nicely integrated by a conforming end link. The watch is big, though it's not huge. Its primary dimension is the one across the wrist, because the end links of the bracelet, move that out of the way a little bit, get a better sense of it. I would recommend this watch for a 14 centimeter circumference wrist if it were on a strap. On the bracelet, I would say you probably want to wear it on a wrist my size or larger. So 16 centimeters circumference and up. Here's your cuff shot. It's broad, but it's flat. It will slip underneath the cuff. No issues there. Taking a look at the bracelet here, you can see a combination of ultra white platinum and then the internals, and this is often the case with platinum bracelets, because gold is harder and stronger than watchmaking grade platinum. Watchmaking gold, 18 karat, is stronger than watchmaking platinum 95. And white gold is the hardest and strongest gold. It's also the gold that looks the most like platinum. So it's a natural match when you have smaller, potentially delicate mechanical parts attached to a platinum bracelet. And so you can see the difference between the warmth of non-rhodium plated traditional white gold and then the blinding white of platinum there. You can see that it is, in fact, made of platinum, and then internally you can see it is, in fact, made of gold. Close it all up. It's a friction fit sequential close. One side snaps shut before the other. You can see the way the bracelet integrates into the case. It actually uses these little end plates and Holt head screws, and this is one element of the bracelet that has changed quite a bit over the years, including the associated marks and hallmarks. So some people pretend that all Journe bracelets are the same. They're not. They've changed quite a bit, typically at that end link profile underneath and the clasp body itself. Rolling around, you can see that it's a familiar form. Just about every Journe dress watch, save a few tonneau cases, has used a similar profile since 1999. The domed case back and bezel each have a flange that defines the mid case. We have integrated lugs, Calatrava style. They turn down 90 degrees from the mid case to make for better fit. We have the world's most famous unsigned crown, knurled on its edge, double dimple. One thing that's important to note here is that in the first position, the Centigraphe crown does nothing. It's that first position out where you now wind the watch, and the second position out where you actually set the time. So just keep that in mind. If you're wondering why it seems to be freewheeling and nothing's happening, it doesn't wind in the first position. Now we've got a rocker that works like a twin pusher chrono, but sort of gives you the elegance of a mono pusher. This is why it works like a twin pusher. See this? Okay, I've stopped. On a mono pusher, I'd have to reset here. I can resume. So this is one of 2 patented elements. The other is the drivetrain for the chrono and the time. More on that in a moment. So resetting, this watch is a wonderful piece of horological theater. And you can see we've got 3 different dials, each with its own tachymetric scale. In theory, you can gauge the speed of objects traveling between 36,000 kilometers per hour on the 1-second scale down to 6 kilometers per hour on the 10-minute scale. So this is 1 rotation a second, 1 rotation every 20 seconds, 1 rotation every 10 minutes. Power reserve with the chronograph off is 80 hours. Power reserve with the chronograph on is 24 hours, but keep in mind with the largest scale being only 10 minutes, not really necessary. That's not a concern. Interestingly, there is actually a secondary escapement that exists under this dial. It's easier to see on the sport versions, which do away with the tack and give you a little smoked sapphire, but it is a hyperactive woodpecker of a thing that allows this high rate second dial to work. Some people argue that it's not 1/100th of a second, that it's actually infinite. You could stop it at any point on that dial, and that is true. But there is an oscillation rate that's defined by that secondary escapement, and that secondary oscillator definitely has a defined rate, even if the hand itself could fall just about anywhere. But no one's got a 1/100th of a second reflex anyway. In fact, if you look at it carefully, you can see in spite of that high rate secondary escapement, it does sort of come to a near halt 6 times per rotation, a reflection of the 3 Hz underlying escapement. Okay, the dial. We have this mirror polished bezel for the sub-registers inboard, which I love. It's nicely beveled on its side, and all the screw heads are mirror finished as well. We've got a sort of matte finished solid gold dial. It's not a salmon dial. It is rose gold, both in color and in material. Taking a quick look, we've got a few red accents. The hands at center are blue. It's a colorful and charming dial with lovely symmetry to it. Turning it all over now, we've got a movement that is called the 1506, and for good reason. It's 15 French lean in diameter, and work started on it in 2006. 50 joules, 18 karat rose gold, 3 Hz, free sprung balance for precision of adjustment and shock resistance. Does have a column wheel, so the action of this patented rocker system is quite crisp. You won't lack for a tactile sensation here. And in terms of the barrel, you can see it gets pride of place in the center of this enormous 33.6 millimeter movement. The reason for that is that this is the second patented element on the watch. The time is driven off the barrel arbor, which is sort of the axle. Oh, pardon me, no. The time is driven off the edge of the barrel. So the toothed edge of the barrel you see right there, that drives the time. The barrel arbor, which is the axle of the barrel, is what actually drives the chronograph. So what that achieves is it sidesteps the problem on most conventional chronographs where the movement actually slows down and begins losing time when the chronograph is active. The price you pay is reduced power reserve. But again, with a 10-minute register being the largest, that's not really a sacrifice. Of course, important to remember, if you want to run the chronograph long term, you're going to have to wind it more often, but it has an 80-hour power reserve with the chronograph off. And because it does take the energy off 2 different drivetrains, the arbor and the edge of the barrel, you can run both the chronograph and the time-telling functions without losing amplitude and without a reduction in precision. So that is the second patented element of this watch. It has lovely circular Côte de Genève, more than credible bevels. Journe got better at those over time. Polished screw head, satination on the wheels, and engine turning on the base plate. It's good looking, and as you see here, this is a fairly early example featuring French hallmarks as well as the Swiss hallmark. That's because this is a French-made Eleanor case, something that was discontinued about mid-2008. From the early days of Journe to about mid-2008, Eleanor outside of Paris made the Journe cases. Journe later bought the company and moved it to Geneva to become his case factory, but the double French hallmark right there indicates this case was made in France, and then the Swiss hallmark indicates the watch was assembled in Switzerland. So it's just kind of fun to see. Charting the changes. A sporty watch, but at 30 meters water resistant. I wouldn't necessarily take it swimming. For all other occasions, though, what a companion. Reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.